is where it all started at Levittown Division Avenue. We all played on this field.
A lot of good memories, remember moved into Levittown at 6 years old, met all our friends here.
We started playing tackle football over in Massapequa. And then we heard, Tommy Cola heard there was a 8-man league starting.
I believe it was 1968. Eddie Rodker and Kenny Weiss saw something about a town of Hempstead touch football league. And they looked into it and they started talking to my brother Tony, and then from there they started to talk about building a team.
It started that every Thanksgiving we would get together no matter what. 10 o'clock in the morning, whatever, snowing, raining, it didn't matter what it was, we were there. It started with that, and we played, and then finally Billy Stanley, Tommy Cola, they got together one day and told everybody, we're going to join a league. And everyone said, all right, let's try it, We were pretty good. We got a bunch of guys together, and most of the guys were from mostly Levittown, started out with old Levittown guys.
That was a rule. Not just Levittown, you had to go to division. You couldn't even go to Memorial. We had guys actually from as far back as the class of 59. I was the youngest guy. I was the class of 66.
It was a thing that we felt strongly about, that let's do it with our guys. The team came first, and we wanted to keep it with the guys we grew up with, in our high school.
I was like one of the younger guys playing with guys you looked up to, the tough guys from the green,
So we kind of all grew up with a bond to begin with. And then in high school, I think everybody just had their own, relationships that they had. And then when we got to play afterwards, we were still in everybody's lives. We were starting to get married, and we're starting to have kids. And we were all young. Most of us got married in our early 20s.
Running around on the sideline with the kids was probably my earliest memories of the football team.
It was definitely a family.
Running around with the Hill boys, Keith and Corey, Mike Hill on the sideline.
A lot of us married our childhood sweethearts back in the day. So a lot of my girlfriends' husbands played on the team.
They, the players, what do you mean you're not coming? You're coming, right? You're the cheerleaders, you got to come, and of course we did.
So we were able to coffee clutch on the sidelines. The kids played on the sidelines, and to this day, we're all still good friends.
I made some really good friends. Some of the women, we became really good friends because we just spent a lot of time together there.
It was a great experience. Growing up in Levittown was something you could never remake.
Everybody knew each other very well. And it was like playing with 20 of your brothers.
Well, we started out just a ragtag team. We had jerseys from county sports, went from 80 to 99, because that's all we could afford.
First year we were in the league, we had no sponsor. We all had to chip in for jerseys, got the cheapest jerseys we can get. The numbers were crazy, everything was different, but we had no sponsors, so we had no money.
We thought, who are we going to get as a coach? Well, knowing people from Levittown, nobody will listen. So Tony kind of took on the job.
But Tony would just calm everything down, and as we became a team, we learned to work together when the whistle blew. Before that, nothing. And we didn't want to coach because we were all our individual people. We weren't teenagers anymore. We were young men that were going out to battle there on Sundays and having a good time, And, I'm not a battling type of guy, but when I played with them, I was.
And we all had an expectation that we would never lose. We were expecting to win the championship the first year we were in the league.
Don't forget, we never played touch. We never played the game. If you told me that was going to be a tackle team, I said, yeah, we're going to be good. We've got a lot of bad guys on the team. When I say bad, respectfully, they're tough guys.
We were the worst sore losers in the world. We couldn't tolerate losing. It wasn't an option losing. When we scrimmaged each other in practice, I had to protect myself. Yeah. Al Williams would have knocked my head off because I knew that's how competitive they all were.
Thursday night practices, everyone by then was full-time jobs, and
right.
would just show up on Thursday night behind the school for practice. Kenny running the show. The intensity of that made the games actually easier.
There was no joke in practice. Practice was practice. I mean, it was. We're not here to fool around and But yeah, it was fun. I mean, it really was fun.
And every week that we won a game, the team would say, hey, you guys are pretty good, but wait till you play this team and that team. And before you knew it, we were in the finals.
The first year that Billy signed us up, you had to be in the B League. There was an A League, 18, 8, and 8 in the B. So we said, we think we're pretty good. They go, you got to start in the B League. Our team was so good, we not only went undefeated, we went unscored upon. Nobody could score on our defense.
We showed them that we should be in the A League, the best league that they had. But we were good from the start.
And once we learned how to play together, it didn't matter how good they were, we were better.
First we started out, we didn't know how good we was, and on the song we were winning and winning and winning.
Everybody got together, hung out, wanted to make each other feel good, and you did. And you knew if one guy got picked on, everybody was getting in a fight.
Because of Jerry Jewell, he kept us intact. And he was a great coach, and he would come to all our games. We were a bunch of good guys and tough. We were like brothers.
No doubt about it. Mr. Jewell, the little tricks he showed us, yeah, the coach was right.
The proof comes after everyone left school. He was still friends with them. He was with them to the end.
The team and the camaraderie we had and the respect we had for each other on the team made everybody play better than they really were. It's because you just felt you had to, because you were going to let people down. And you knew everybody else was playing at their best.
It was just a brotherhood that we had.
You didn't want to miss a block that you had to make. We were all friends, we didn't leave anybody out.
And really care for each other. You didn't want to let the person next to you down. And I think that was a big part of our being able to win as much as we did.
You couldn't ask for better teammates or tougher guys. I don't care. They were tough guys in any era.
Tommy Kohler running and blocking as the offensive halfback. Tommy was in the hospital with pneumonia, and he checked himself out of the hospital to come to the game on Sunday morning. It was freezing cold, with below 30. He came with his uniform on and a blanket wrapped around. He played the whole game and then went back to the hospital.
The biggest thing, every guy on the team had heart. Listen, there's guys on my team, I couldn't have more heart than these guys. Look, I talk about my brother Nicky being 150 pounds in a national championship game and putting his face in there like that, and he's an accountant. but he had balls,
You mentioned John Heckwas before. John never played high school football. We had Nicky P, Tony's brother. He never played high school football, but they came out and they were as good and as tough as anybody. But Nicky could block anybody. John Heckwas was a really unbelievable tight end. And there was something about it. When you played on the team, you played above yourself, played higher than your normal self.
And we loved each other. The guys actually loved each other. There was no selfish guys on the team.
But then you get a group of people that all respect each other. And then when it comes to push to shove, if you make it or I make it, it don't matter just as long as it happens. They did everything for the best of the team and not for themselves.
And I had some great memories there. I mean, a couple of broken noses and scrapes and stuff. And my wife would say to me, "You're going to lose your job if you get hurt real bad." I said, "No, I'm not going to get hurt real bad, but just winning games, going out to have a couple of beers afterwards."
Tony was the leader on the team. I mean, he and Kenny were both captains. Tony was the defensive captain, but Tony just pulled everybody together.
Being one of the younger guys and him one of the older guys, it was great to have him put his arm around you and welcome you to the crew. He was the grandfather, captain of the team. He always had a good word. Everybody loved Tony, still do.
Tony P was a hell of a player. He knew how to play his position real good.
Tony There ain't too many guys like Tony. He is some athlete.
We just let Tony have his way. He was kind of our monster man.
We used to have a play. Driscoll still talks about it today.
And the thing that Tony took great joy in, and I got to be a part of it, was I was the corner. And I would take their best receiver, and I would bump and run them till they got right about where the center was. And then I'd step back, and the next thing you'd hear a big oomph, and the guy would be down on the ground, and Tony would be laughing.
So I wasn't giving a shit they got to a touchdown or not. That guy coming across the middle that Driscoll pushed into me, right? He was history. And all you would hear was like, pow! And Driscoll he'd try not to laugh. I could hit guys coming across the middle as good as anybody, especially if they weren't looking, you know?
Well, Tony played linebacker in high school and also on our team. Let me tell you a quick story about Tony. He was a cop and he got shot in the leg. 2 days later, he's all bandaged up and he shows up at the game. Just got shot. Tough guy, but with a smile on his face. I mean, you know, he loved all of us and we loved him.
Tony was a middle linebacker, and he just had it. It was a thing I call it, like, when you coach and he was overwhelming at his position. He just was in the right place all the time. He's like that middle linebacker from Dallas now, Mika guy.
Right. Yeah.
He's no matter where he is, you're looking for him here, and he just knows where to come from.
Yeah.
He has a gift. Tony was just an amazing player.
They look over their shoulder when they were catching the ball because they knew they were going to get hit hard. So that was the strength of our defense, and that really started with Tony. But Red Conley was very tough. John Driscoll was very tough like that. So Tony kind of had an influence on how the game should be played, and it was play it as rough as we can possibly play it.
And it was tough football. It was not tackled, but it was tough. We didn't take anything from anybody.
We pushed it to the limit. We took it for all we could get, and other teams respected us for it. There were no dirty plays, but they knew they were going to get hit.
This could be a touch, or this could be a touch.
Right.
You hold those hands in, and you Mike Hill, 230 pounds or something, you hit somebody, well, they're going to go down.
It was supposed to be two-hand touch, and we were allowed to do just about anything. We could do cross body blocks, or leave our feet. So I would chop them down and give Kenny much more time to get the ball off.
Red Conley was so strong. The guy had hands. When he touched you, I mean, you felt them into your inner organs. I mean, he hit you so hard.
As long as the palms of your hands were open, and you could tag a guy as hard as you could, more of a shove or a double karate shot. And Tommy Conley flattened me more than once.
And like Red could have been, he was a defensive back, but he could have been a linebacker. And I say that knowing that he was good enough to be covered wide receivers, but he was also good enough to hit guys. Yeah. Johnny Driscoll was terrific. I would never say Driscoll was better than Red or Red was better than Driscoll.
Tony not only was a great athlete, he never got enough credit for what he can do. He had a good mind for football, but he had a better mind for how to getting people to do things for him. And he knew who could do this, who could do that. He said to me, Bobby, if you want, I need you to play free safety today. He knew what I could do as a free safety because I could run. And I was a center fielder in baseball, so I would do that. And other guys, John Heckles, a guy that's a receiver, now he's playing defensive end, running because of his speed. He would do that.
Johnny Heckles, he wasn't a very large human being, but boy, that man was faster than you could imagine. He used to play an outside defensive rushing position, and he just outran most of the guards and halfback to try to block him. He'd be in there. I mean, quarterbacks used to say, shit, because he'd get you. He just find a way to get you. He'd get you, though.
You had to know your people. Yeah. And I think we were good at that. That wasn't just me, like I said. Tommy Cola. Yeah. He was the best cross-body block I've ever seen in my life. Yeah.
Tony would say to me, Tommy, get this guy. We're going to let him bruise through a little, and take them down. So then that's when I would go. I knew what I was looking for, and then I would throw the crossbody block on him, and that'd be the end of him for a while. You know.
He would say to me, "Let him through. Let that linebacker, the guys that let him through. I got him." And all you'd hear, bing.
We had great athletes everywhere. We had 7 years of division guys, like an all-star team, and all these guys were there. I didn't even expect to start a play. There was a guy named Gary Parker who was really a good quarterback, had led the division team in 1960 to the league championship. He didn't hang out at the green, never hung out with the guys. And for some reason, I could see he felt uncomfortable. Tommy Kohler, he told me, "You just hang out, buddy, because you're going to be the starter." And that was the first year.
We were blessed with a lot of good athletes. I mean, they just, and they liked how we did things. It's if you were good enough, you were going to play.
I tell you, we had talent. I mean, we had talent that could have been in that training camp with me. I mean, guys like Ches and Tony and the Hill brothers. I mean, on the interior, and then you had guys like a Bobby Lombardi, a Johnny Driscoll. They could have played. I mean, I saw guys, come and go that I know they were better than, and it was just the level. We were just playing at a different level than everybody else.
Yeah, my brother, we played together, and they made him defense end, they made me one. So who would get the quarterback first? So it was a competition.
We had the Williams brothers were the defensive ends. Mike Hill was the nose guard, and he was 250. He was, the guy used to pick up manhole covers by himself in a cesspool company. He was so powerful. I felt bad almost for the other, these linemen on the other team. You didn't have shoulder pads. You didn't have equipment on.
Mike's mission, he thought, was he would soften up the center so he would make a few bad snaps toward the ends of the game. Most of the centers didn't last the whole game, or if they did, they weren't in by the third or fourth quarter.
We had Mike Hill. What a great player he was. God, he'd light up the other team.
He was very inspirational. When you saw him playing like that, you figured you better play up a notch.
I remember seeing the Hill brothers play when they played for the bar in the West Village Green. Fantastic. And I was younger then. I used to go see some of the games. Their legs are huge. Their legs are huge. And they were really nice guys, very, very humble, but they were hard-nosed guys. There was no playing around with them. I saw them. You don't want those guys to get angry.
Mike Hill, he had a brother, Pat Hill, that also used to play with us. Both phenomenal people. Mike Hill, I mean, everybody on the team, Cesaria, Tony, Mike and Pat Hill, all these guys were big, tough guys. Again, they were more of a legend to me when I got there because they were so much older. And I never saw any of the things that they talked about, but I heard about them all. And then to finally get them and see them, again, they were very nice people, very sociable, took me with open arms. I mean, you couldn't ask for something nicer.
I remember the year of Eddie Berzo graduated. He was 17, 18 years old.
In our senior year, we had a phenomenal year. And the big star back then was Eddie Berzo. Our quarterback was Russ Ratliff. Running backs was Jimmy Neest and Eric Yunker. We were 8-0. But Eddie Berzo, other than Bobby Lombardi, those are the two best athletes I've ever known.
We invited Eddie. He goes, "I can't come play with you guys." But Eddie could play. He was great. As a matter of fact, the first kickoff of the game he played, he ran 99 yards for a touchdown.
Wow.
They kicked off to us, and Eddie Berzo took the thing and ran. He said, "Think you can play now, Eddie? What do you think?" And he was 17 years old.
Kenny had us drilled for 8-yard completions because first downs were 15 yards. So he figured if we could complete 2 of 3 8-yard passes on each possession, that would result in a continuing flow of first downs.
Kenny was a great quarterback for us. He spread the ball around to everybody. He was a good leader, call the plays, get us going, march us down the field.
He was the backbone, the brain.
We knew he could make the throw, as long as we could give him some time. But he was really good, really good. I missed the guy.
He has a great knowledge of football. He taught me the square out and go. He was excellent. He was excellent. And he had a way with the guys. And if anybody said anything about Kenny, everybody was behind Kenny.
He had such a big heart and he had such a great arm. But another thing is just for thinking about calling the plays all the time, just the way that under any type of pressure, he was always cool, calm, and collective. He was a great quarterback. I mean, he's what you dream about in your mind, saying like, oh, who would I pick for a quarterback? I mean, I'm just saying he was great.
Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick, and Coach Jewell all rolled, and Coach Amon all rolled into one.
Going back to the fan was the primary thing for the kids, for sure. You know,
We would go back to the Fantastic Inn, and we'd order pizzas. You know, the kids would get Cokes with cherries. They must went through gallons of cherries.
Lori was always waiting for her, Shirley Temple.
And the kids played all the games, and the guys would talk about the game.
Everybody let their hair down. Everybody enjoyed themselves. Nobody was uptight. And the bartender was like, oh, here they come.
It was an outing. The whole day was spent football.
And they were just fun. Playing pool. I'd play pool a lot. And just enjoy hours and hours at the Fantastic Inn.
We even went away one time to Staten Island to play a team over there that had never been beaten.
And then when they invited us to Staten Island, we really had a challenge there.
They thought they were going to steamroll us.
The customers had to pay like $2 or $3 to get into the stadium.
I do remember going into into a stadium.
We were escorted in by security guards to the stands, and we all sat in a group.
And I do remember there was a little hostility.
And then we were hearing the crowd was actually not taunting us, but saying things. We were very uncomfortable. So we then let somebody know from our side, the fellas, and they decided that we should not stay in the stands.
And I do remember that they had like some ex-pros on their team.
A guy named Charlie Margiotta, who ran the Staten Island Football Leagues. He called me up and he wanted to give us $2,000. This is back in the 70s, to come in an exhibition game against his teams. They thought they'd play with us. Well, so Tony, 2,000, give it to me. It was like, when we went in there, well, we quickly realized the guy was no jerk. It was giving us 2,000, but he had like 2,000 or 3,000 fans there that he charged $5 a piece. So he was making a bunch of money. But we went to play these guys. They were giants. They had Freeman McKinley and Boston McKinley from the New York Giants. They had retired professional players of all positions. They had a 6'5" quarterback. It was amazing. In the first quarter, we knocked them out of the game. Well, the defense knocked them out of the game. His twin brother came in. That's how many athletes they had. It was amazing. But we ended up playing to a 6-6 tie. Wow. And we got screwed. We were winning 6-0, and the referees railroaded us. They were afraid of the crowd.
And we should have won that game, but they threw the flag at the last minute on Red Conley, saying that he interfered with the pass, which was not so.
But I do remember that, something with Tommy Red.
One of the worst experiences ever in my life. The refs pretty much took the game away from us. I'm going to say they took the game away from us.
I remember how angry and how unfair, and how, yes, that everybody thought, well, these refs this is it, they're Staten Island, probably paying them, which they probably were.
Pass interference calls and stuff like that, whatever that they needed help from the refs, they got.
But I remember even getting out of there, we just couldn't wait to get in our cars and leave,
By 1972, we had beat the Suffolk teams and some other teams from New York City, and somebody put our name out there, and we were invited to a national tournament down in Jersey. And they had teams from Texas and Maryland and Washington, D.C., and Ohio, and we played. And we ended up in the finals, but the first year we lost in the finals. And then the next year, 73, we went back and we won.
The national championship, that was special because, you know what, we didn't know what we were getting into. We were playing teams from all over the country that, you know, they were supposed to be so much better than us and everything else, and they had, I mean, gifted athletes. You know, we had really good athletes, and we had Bobby Lombardi.
It was amazing. We ran into one team, I can't remember, I think they were maybe from Delaware or Pennsylvania or somewhere, and they had some kind of, I can't remember his name, some kind of a Division I quarterback that I never saw a quarterback with an arm like this guy had. And yet we hung in there and were able to win against, you know, some very strong competition.
My mom and I used to have the family over all the time for Thanksgiving dinner. So we'd be cooking, you know, for days to get ready for Thanksgiving. And we'd have all the pies and all the mixed things that go with Thanksgiving dinner. As soon as everybody left, we were packing up everything. We were putting things in Tupperwares and wrapping things up, and the turkey had to come with us. And we put them in big coolers, and then we packed the car. The kids all had to get in, you know, the suitcases, and we left for Freehold, New Jersey. And we did that for quite a few years.
We were playing in Jersey tournament, and it was a close game, and it was getting dark out. All week long, Kenny White and I and a bunch of the guys worked hard into the night. We were throwing the ball when it was dark. So here we come now, and we call it, this play. It's the last play of the game, we're losing. We were maybe on the 10-yard line, and Kenny rolls to the left, and we, Cerrone ran went this way, somebody else went the other way, and I just button hooked in the middle, and he hit me with the pass right in the shoulders, jumped up, touchdown, win, game over. That was one of the biggest moments of our team at one time.
My group, a lot of it was pies. Let's have all the desserts. Let's bring those. We ate turkey sandwiches all weekend. You know, we'd go to a hotel and we'd have like a whole floor of rooms. And the kids had a ball. They loved it. They played in the hall, and great memories traveling with them. Whatever you had left over, and people ate it. It was great. It was fun. That was a lot of fun. The kids enjoyed it. They enjoyed the pool in the hotel.
It was always a family affair. So now we're going Thanksgiving weekend to New Jersey, and our families are coming along, and you know, it was just, it was kind of special. So when we won that first championship, I can't tell you how excited we all were, you know, because again, we were playing teams that were supposed to be a lot better than us.
These guys were like the first sports heroes to me. My father always said that Bobby Lombardi was the best athlete to come out of Levittown.
First of all, like I said, your dad's right. Bobby Lombardi, hands down, was the best athlete that I've ever played with.
I don't think I've ever met a better athlete in my life. And when I was at Wyoming, I played with some really good guys who made it big time in the pros, like Jim Kick and Mike Lloyd. Couldn't compare to Bobby Lombardi as far as athleticism. Just something about the guy. He was very fast. I think he could run a 100-yard dash in 9.8 seconds.
I used to hang out with his son and Andrea and his daughter, so we were close. The families were close. The families were close. Everybody was close. That team was a family as much as it was a team. And and Bobby, he was unbelievable. You know, some of the things you see this guy do, like we're seeing now, like guys making catches in the NFL, like that was the beginning of that stuff. Like I get to see some things. I'm like, how do you turn your body that way? How does this guy always get open? Yeah. You know, he always found a way.
The most gifted athlete I have never seen, and so humble that you would never know it.
If you had 10 seconds left in the game and it was just, Bobby, just go out and get free. Yeah. And Kenny would find him and we'd win the game. I mean, he just make catches that you would never believe.
He was the fastest guy, strong as hell, and he just had an instinct for sports. He was not just the best football player. I mean, he didn't even play high school football. Guys would come to scout other people on other teams, you know, young guys. And every time they come scout one of our games, they'd come to me and go, can we get that guy? Every guy, every scout from, I'm talking, from NFL guys, you couldn't believe it. And colleges wanted to recruit, give him scholarships. He is by far the best athlete I've ever seen. He was, you love this. I don't know if you ever, we played stickball behind the green. And if you threw a pitch and he didn't swing, you'd go, that was a strike. We had a chalk thing. He goes, if it was a strike, I would have swung at it. he actually got 3 different times, twice with the Yankees and once with the Mets. They called him in for tryouts. And out of 100 guys each tryout had 100 guys. And each tryout, he was one of the 3 picked to give a contract to. Each time. And he went home and told his father he could play, Major League Baseball. They want to put him in the minor leagues and groom him. And his father just wouldn't. He said, sports are that's not working.
We had a play one time that we were going to throw out to Bobby Lombardi, but instead of it being a running play, he was going to get a lateral from Kenny. The corner came up and was chasing Bobby. Bobby hit Paulie Beswick about 40 yards downfield. Paulie ran in for a touchdown and we won the game. And when Paulie came back to the sidelines, Bobby said, "I'm sorry." And Paulie said, "For what?" He said, "Well, the guy was chasing me to the right and I had to throw with my offhand."
It's amazing. Kenny White still talks about to this day. Bobby was a right-handed. The guys come up on him so quick. Bobby couldn't throw the ball, and he had to throw it like 30 yards, 40 yards. And Kenny White says to him, he goes, "Bobby, why'd you throw the ball with your left hand? Why'd you throw the ball with your left hand?" He says, "The only one I had available."
Even if we were down or we were losing a bit, we always felt we had a shot as long as we had Bobby.
They haven't invented a word good enough for him yet.
Yeah.
The closest I can get without going into all the wonderful, awesome, is he's an elite athlete. And until they come up with a better expression, he's it. And one of the nicest people you will ever meet.
The thing about him, he's just laid back. He just doesn't, it never flaunted it, never did anything. He was just as happy to play his guitar and play it. He was a drummer, really.
Yeah.
We used to go to different places, watch him drum. And then years later, now I hear he plays the guitar. And it's like nothing the guy can't do.
Sometimes we would choose up and play against each other, the natives and the frat boys and this and that. Yeah. Well, I don't know why. I always had to attempt to guard Bobby. Lucky me, huh?
First of all, he was one of the nicest men, one of the nicest guys that I ever met. He was just a really nice guy. Loved his family, loved his wife, and I used to really, really, really like to see him play. He was phenomenal. When he would catch, the way he would run, the touchdowns he made, he was just great. He was, probably, forgive me, John, probably the best player on the team without a doubt.
It became a time after about 8-10 years, we actually our guys started to retire. So we did allow, there were very good players in the league, and they all wanted to play for us. Yeah. So that's how we ended up getting the Bill Cherries and the different really good athletes around,
My earliest recollection was when I was playing for McQuaid's Pub. And we used to play, the Fan and all the teams in the league. I always remember the Fan, just talented, tough, and it was always a hard-fought game, and we usually came out on the short end. I got to know the guys real well, and like Johnny Driscoll and I used to go against each other all the time as a wide receiver and a D-back. And we always sort of liked each other. I used to go back to the Fan to have a couple of cocktails afterwards, and then I was asked to come and join the team. My first day of practice, Tony came up to me and put his arm around me and said, "Billy, we have one rule." And I'm like, "Okay, what's that?" He goes, "One guy goes, everybody goes." So then I knew, okay, this is the way we're going to play. I think If I remember correctly, Tony clotheslined me the first practice also and just said, welcome to the team.
Billy Cherry, another great. Billy Cherry is another guy that wasn't a Levittown guy. What was great, Billy Cherry is just a great athlete. He had speed, he had hands, he had moves. Billy Cherry and he's a good person. We ended up getting another guy on the team down the road, and he's from Hicksville, and he was great. And I'm going to tell you who he is. Bruce Simone from Hicksville. Now, I didn't know any guys from Hicksville, and I heard about Bruce Simone, but he tried out for Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, really?
He tried out for Bruce Simone. And he didn't make it because he didn't have the speed. But Bud Grant, I remember that. I got a bad memory, but I remember this. Bud Grant says Bruce Simone, he said, is the best pair of hands I've ever seen on an athlete. This is Bud Grant saying that.
I knew they were good. I don't think I realized how good they were until, you start getting a little older, and, as a kid, you're just jumping on the pile to try and get in a photo. You don't realize what's really going on, and then, like, holy shit, these guys are legit. They're a bunch of tough guys that just had a lot of heart. They knew how to play the game. They played the game the right way.
I saw these guys play all the time when I was a kid. Many of them were good friends with my dad, so if he wasn't taking me to a game, my mother was taking me to games because my uncle, John Heckwas, was part of the team. And all they ever did was win.
The guys in Levittown don't go far. There could be teams in Merrick, Massapequa, but we're staying in Levittown. And why? Because that's just how Levittown is. And the overall just camaraderie was just so special. It was really special. And I don't think anybody would understand it unless you were part of it.
We had just left and won the Runkers Cup in the '82 season, and Tony had come over and asked us all to join and keep the tradition going from winning championships from the Touch Football League that they dominated when we were younger.
Kenny White was our high school football coach. He was our offensive coordinator. And Division had just won back-to-back Rutgers Cups. So Kenny White invited a bunch of us to play on the team. It was amazing that they were still playing. The Fantastic Inn had now become Uncle Sam's because Tony and all of them owned the club. We were all playing college sports at that time, but for us, this was like getting called up to the big leagues. Like, we were not saying no. It was me, Tony Romano, Willie Arroyo, Tommy Orlando, Bobby Hepworth, Timmy Conley, Kenny McLaughlin.
Michael Bolger came over, great lacrosse player. Espo, Johnny Anglam. We had Eddie Smithwick, which we called Meatwood. He took over Tony P. lineman position. Richie Hozak, Mickey Mena, which was also a speedster. Jimmy Rogers played defensive end like LT. I can't forget Chris Cass, Robbie's brother, came over. He played at Stony Brook. He was a great linebacker.
We won the Long Island Championship my first year on the team. And it was the great balance of young guys and the veterans. Kenny White was still quarterbacking. Mike Hill was still playing when I joined the team. You had Ches was the center still, Tony P, Driscoll, Bill Cherry. I mean, these guys were coming out Paulie Beswick. These guys were coming out playing hard every week. And I even got to play a season with my Uncle Johnny, who came out of retirement.
Guys were awesome. Willie Arroyo, all those guys. I played inside linebacker with Bill Cherry. Bonnie Ell was the quarterback. Kenny White was the quarterback as well. Ches was there. Yeah, we had a lot of success. I can't remember losing.
That whole division thing, I mean, I get a little emotional, but you guys came, you had it too. I mean, you guys had the same desire to win and hate of losing that we did. It was a natural evolution of getting new guys. Every guy who came wanted to play the best he could, just like you said, for the team. And that wasn't just the guys from the 60s, it was 70s and 80s. You guys were all the same. When you guys came, you wanted to win. And we already had a culture of winning. We had a system, and guys just fit in.
Those guys gave us a foundation that you just don't get. Like, the foundation was built. We just had to slide into slots and play. And everybody in Levittown plays the same way, hard as you can.
They perfected winning. I mean, the team always evolved. They come up with different strategies. They come up with different plays. One thing that stood out for me defensively, we'd line up Tommy Orlando, Mickey Mena, Willie Arroyo, Jimmy Rogers, Johnny Anglam. We'd line them up as defensive ends. And they would be so fast, they'd get right around the lineman and sack the quarterback. I mean, we put so much pressure on the other team's quarterback because we had this incredible speed in our defensive line.
It's just a great Levittown group. They just meshed, and we were a force to be reckoned with.
And the one thing that I remember most is that they had this concept of if one guy's in, everybody's in.
There was one traditional play that they used forever, going all the way back to the origin of the team. It was a screenplay, and it started with Bobby Lombardi. And Tony Passione would pull from his guard position, and Kenny White would throw a screen pass.
That came from day one. That was a guy named Bobby Lombardi was out there, and he could fly. Yeah. If you got the ball out to Lombardi, if one, Tony made a block, he made one guy miss. You can't catch the guy.
Right.
He was flying. So from day one, the dink and dunk, that's what I call them, dinking and dunking, throwing the quick throwouts, throwing screen plays.
By the time I got on the team, they designed that same play for Robbie Sabara, and I can't tell you how many times we scored on a simple screen pass to Robbie Sabara. And then eventually it became Willie Arroyo's play.
We used to call that like a quick throw out. Yeah. I said, listen, Bob, we tell Robbie, you get out there, I'm hitting the first guy. Yeah. Okay, don't worry about the first guy. You got to worry about the second guy. I'm going to get the first guy.
It's almost like, why didn't you run it every play? Right. But it was amazing. When you threw it, it was almost a guaranteed 6. Yeah. It was going to be a significant yardage, or you picking up 6 every time.
There was one moment, it was a championship game, and we were all arguing in the huddle, and Ches told everyone to be quiet, let Boniello call the play. And of course, it was that Tony play, quick throw out, but get out of bounds. Whatever you do, get out of bounds. And sure enough, I didn't, and everyone just started blocking people. We won the game, and it was actually Tony's birthday, and we gave him the old pie in the face. And it was probably one of the greatest moments, all of us. And for us, they won it so many years, but for us young guys, that was a great moment. Yeah.
What they're doing in some of the National Football Leagues, the great Mahomes, that's what he does. He throws all quick things flying. Look at the Miami Dolphins now. Yeah. That's what we did. Listen, I didn't have a big arm. Wasn't a 55-yard guy, 60-yard, but I could throw quick and accurate, and that's what we did.
I'm glad I never played defense against them, honestly. Against that entire team.
Yeah. So I made sure all those stuff was there. And I can't tell you, I used to start every game with a screen to Tommy Cola. Tommy was about 5'9", but he was like 220. He had legs you couldn't believe. You would never know he could be this fast. He was a great athlete. And when we would throw a screen pass to him, we'd have 2 blocks from our offensive lineman. There's only 8 guys on the team. He was gone.
Yeah.
So I cannot tell you how many times we scored the first play of the game, because every team said they were going to kick our butt, and they came flying before everybody blitzed the first play.
Right.
We threw a screen, and Tommy was gone.
We had a group of really tough Hicksville guys who joined the team as well. Renee, Roger, Kevin Miller. Kevin was like our Mark Bavaro, a tight end you just couldn't stop. All the great legends were still there, but I was also playing with Robbie Sabara and Eddie Burzo. Sabara was an unbelievable running back. He played football at Columbia. And Burzo was also a great running back at Division, but he was also drafted by the Cleveland Indians and made it all the way to AAA.
Kenny White was the main guy playing for the Uncle Sam's team. He was like a Roger Staubach kind of guy. And as he got older, he became more of a coach, and we got Boniello, who was a great lacrosse player at Division and at Maryland, All-American lacrosse player, really put Levittown on the map. And he was tutored by Kenny White.
Joining Boniello was Larry O'Leary, another phenomenal lacrosse player. It seemed like every great athlete from Levittown had played on this team at one point or another.
Tony Jr., he played at Farmingdale. He was a great football player over there.
I think I made a ridiculous catch on a sideline and kept my feet in, and I think everybody was shocked. And I think that solidified me in a spot in the team for a little longer. And that was, I think I was even surprised I caught it.
You could tell his dad lit up when he seen Tony Jr., and he was just one of the boys from Levittown, even though he lived in Farmingdale.
To me, the icing on the cake was when Tony Passione Jr. joined the team. He was having a great year at Farmingdale High School, playing on Saturdays, and then showing up with us and playing on Sunday.
I never thought it was a possibility. These guys were all for kids back then, they were living legends. You weren't ever going to play with them. It was never, I didn't think about it. And then my father had asked me one day, when I was in high school, and I said, yeah, I'll give it a shot. But to be able to run around the field with Bonnie Eller and some of these guys, I'm out there with Willie Arroyo and Hepworth and big Kevin Miller. It's be able to play football with my father at any level, and not just throwing a ball in the backyard was, it gives me chills now thinking about it. To me, these are full-grown men. And I'm this kid coming out of high school, or still in high school. And the fact that they even let me do it, I was like, holy shit, this is pretty cool. I thought I'd be able to get a play here and there, but then all of a sudden I'm playing significant time. And I'm like, holy shit. It's actually kind of cool, and to be able to run a quick screen with my father blocking, or to run tackle eligible, which he loved. That was his staple, sneaky play, to tackle eligible. To be able to do that with your father out in front of you blocking, like, when are you going to get that opportunity?
It was probably the happiest time of my life, personally. And I think a lot of guys that were on the team, it was a happy time for them, or everybody. And everybody went through tragedy in their families. But that team was a thing that 20 years later, 30 years later, I can say I'm 80 years old, and I can still talk about it, and like it happened yesterday. And talk about every guy. You could mention every guy in the team. And Bobby, I'd give you something good about every guy.
And it was something for people that, that were either in college or people that were married with kids. It gave them something to look forward to every Sunday, a year after year.
You want to play on this team. Everybody wants to play on it. It's because it became divisions team after high school. Everybody wanted to play on it. We knew each other so well. We got in trouble in class together. We got detention together. We apologized together, and we stuck together. And I had every bit as much fun in those 4 years, however many years I played. I wouldn't trade it for
I mean, I played on the team 10 years. So, you laugh because we're never going to grow up.
Just winning games, going out to have a couple of beers afterwards. It was a great time in my life.
It was a special time in our lives. It was our moment in life, and we're all frustrated athletes, when you get to that point, but we did something, that was so good, and everybody put their heart and soul into it. And the friendships we built, And I'm an outsider, you know, I wasn't a Levittown guy. And, you know, I feel that same way. I was in the same mindset that they were, and they accepted me, and we just still keep it together.
I remember my husband telling people about this team, you know, if he was speaking to somebody that didn't know about the history, and he would tell them, he goes, we were just a bunch of mutts. They really were an unbeatable force, and I think other teams played them and didn't expect that at all.
Johnny Comer, you know, RoboCop, he was amazing. He was a great guy. He was the only East Meadow guy, but he meshed right in. He was a great guy. And Bobby Hepworth, can't forget Bobby. Yep. So we had some monsters, you know, monsters. And Max used to work at the club, and you can't forget Max, 72 years old, playing football with us. Yeah, but wow, what great memories.
For John to play, he never played any sports in high school. He was just the art, that was his thing, and he, I think, missed it. He always watched it, always enjoyed it. And I think when he started to do this, the camaraderie for him, and the fact that he thought he was going to be damn good, and he was, you know, speedy, he was good. He played with everything he had, you know what I mean? He would just, you know, there was no, I think all of them did, but like for him who never played it before in high school, you know, for him it was an opportunity. It was just a joy. He just really looked forward to being with them, connecting with them, doing anything for each other. He loved playing with them.
Yeah, Tommy Red. Yeah, he was a personal friend of mine. He was great, Red. You know, one time we were away playing and I got hurt. I thought I broke my ankle. He took me to the hospital and we went and found out that I just had ripped some ligaments and stuff, you know, that there was no break, thank God. Yeah. So I'd be there on the next game, no matter what.
Tony Passione, he's an incredible man. I found him to be a mentor to the kids in Levittown like no other. I mean, if your family had hard times, it wasn't some guy down a block. He stepped in and helped out. And no questions, never brought it up, didn't look for a pat on the back.
Kenny White was my high school football coach. He taught me so much about what it was to be a wide receiver. We'd be at division football practices and he'd be dropping Bobby Lombardi's name, so I learned a lot from him. And so we're in the playoffs. I had this guy covering me all game, and he was really physical, playing bump and run the whole game. He's talking at me the whole game. I was getting frustrated. I was, you know, saying stuff to the refs, and the guy on the other team's going like this to me, like stop crying, like well, stop whining. It was late in the game. Tony P says to me, Robert, stay with it. And like he called me Robert, and so I knew he was serious. And I run like just run a simple out. And so as I'm starting my pattern, I take him inside first, and then I make my break out. And I knew I had created just enough separation, you know, for Kenny to get the pass there. And Kenny White puts a perfect pass on the outside, but the guy goes for the ball, and he misses. And so I catch it, I turn around, I have nothing but open field ahead of me, and I run about 40, 50 yards for a touchdown, and I'm so excited. We were going to win the game, and I turn around, and the first person in the end zone was Tony P, and I'll never forget that.
It was a special thrill, you know. Me personally, I never kept any of the trophies. The trophies didn't matter to me. It was the memories. And here I am, 75 years old, and at times I just smile thinking about all the good times we had together.
There was something good about every guy in the team. They all could do something different, like, and it's you know, me, I had the brains on the team. Now, you know you don't believe that, anybody.